Okay, so as you all know, Thunderbolts was finally released in theaters this Friday. And it wouldn't be an understatement to say that this was probably one of the most anticipated MCU films since Deadpool and Wolverine. Which, well, might not be saying much, but you get what I'm trying to say. A lot of people got to see this movie early, and everyone was praising it to death. I saw someone say this was top 4 MCU levels of good. So naturally, I was pretty excited, and I went in with pretty high expectations. And well, it was pretty good, but I think you guys are overreacting just a little bit. I'm gonna keep it spoiler-free at first, so don't worry. And I will warn you before I start getting into spoilers, because I think people should go into this movie as blind as possible. It's no secret that after Endgame, the MCU kind of nosedived into the shitter, and in that process, most people completely lost interest in most characters they've introduced since. Hell, including myself, being an MCU fan was not easy for a while. Now, if you are one of those people that feels like you don't really care about anything that's going on in the MCU, or any of the characters that have been introduced after we lost Tony, Steve, Natasha, you know, the OGs, I really think you should go watch this movie. Thunderbolts has 2 main purposes. The first is to set up the future of the MCU and Phase 6. And the second is to get you to fall in love with every single member of this cast. Most people already love Bucky, and I think most people will fall in love with Sentry right off the bat. But for example, if you watch Black Widow or Hawkeye and you still don't care too much about Yelena, after this film, I guarantee that you will. And you can say that about everyone here. This movie does a great job at exploring everyone's character to a much deeper level than most MCU films. And that is by far the strongest part about this movie. Another thing to point out is this film looks really damn good. I thought the opening scene was really strong, and the quality never really dipped from there other than one scene that I thought looked a little wonky, but that's not too big of a deal. All the practical effects they showed us in the trailers look even better on the big screen. And I really hope they continue to use more and more of these types of shots because they always look so cool. And the fight scenes, let me tell ya, they were a big jump in quality from what we got in Captain America Brave New World. The choreography is great, and there's one specific fight scene that I thought stood out from the others just a little bit, but to be honest, they were all really well done. I mentioned this movie sets up the future of the MCU, but what I didn't mention is that they do it in a pretty big and obvious way. I'm mainly talking about 2 scenes, one at the end of the movie and the post-credit scene. But there's not much else I can say about that without spoiling, so that's all I'm gonna tell you. Although, with that being said, here is your spoiler warning. From here on out, I'ma spoil all over this movie, so if you haven't watched it, go watch it. I'm telling you, the blinder you go into this movie, the better. Do not spoil this movie for yourself, please. Taskmaster, what the fuck was that? You lasted like 15 minutes! You didn't make it this far, you lying piece of shit! What was the point in promoting her if she was just gonna get white tigered after one scene? Okay, sorry, I just had to get that out of my system. I know I was talking about post-credit scenes and all that, but I want to go back to the characters really quickly. Thunderbolts really hammers home a message about loneliness, and how the people you least expect could end up becoming the friends or even family you go to for support. Following all these outcasts with troubled pasts, learning how to find company within themselves, rather than just swallowing down that void of emptiness they feel inside, was really compelling and the sole reason why this movie is so special. Every character here goes through something different. Yelena still dealing with the trauma of her past and struggling with feelings of abandonment and emptiness after losing her sister and Alexei disappearing on her when she needed him most. Walker being haunted by his regrets of treating his family like shit after being rejected by the entire world as Captain America and losing his wife and kid in the process. Alexei seeking some sort of purpose after his job as the Red Guardian ultimately came to an end, and Ava also dealing with the trauma of her past of growing up in labs and being experimented on. On top of all these already semi-established characters, we get introduced to the Sentry, aka Bob. Lewis Pullman really seems to love his Bobs. At first he's portrayed as a goofy, fish-out-of-water type of character that we don't really know anything about, other than a few things we can put together from the documents we're shown about Project Sentry. Later on, it's revealed to us that Bob also suffers with a traumatic childhood, with an abusive father and a mother that neglected him, and would constantly devalue him, telling him how everything he involves himself with just ends up getting worse. They managed to explore all these characters in a very cohesive and entertaining way. For a movie that is touching up on some very serious topics that a lot of people struggle with, it is a blast all the way through. David Harbour is hilarious as Alexei. All the scenes of him embarrassing Yelena in front of the others as her annoying dad had my whole theater laughing. But the character that I personally found the funniest by far was Walker. And I don't think enough people are talking about just how funny this guy is in this film. He's just very snarky and he's kind of an asshole, and I love it. I really enjoyed every dynamic between these characters, especially between Yelena and Bob. Seeing them both bond over their horrifying childhoods is really heartwarming, and I'm excited to see more of these two in the future. Now, you may have noticed that I didn't talk about Bucky at all, and that's because he doesn't do too much in this film. But frankly, he didn't need to. He's the Winter Soldier. We already know everything we need to know about him. So I'm actually kind of glad they set him more to the side in order to give everyone else a chance to shine. But even then, his motorcycle scene had me smiling cheek to cheek because this dude is just so badass. But okay, what does this film do for the future of the MCU? At the very end of the movie, in a final attempt to hide her crimes, Valentina establishes the Thunderbolts as the new Avengers in front of the press, setting up two groups of Avengers, one being these guys and the others being Sam Wilson's Avengers. There's a mid-credit scene that seems pretty silly and pointless at first, but in reality it's kind of showing us how the public still isn't taking the new Avengers seriously, and that just because their name was issued by the government doesn't mean it was earned in the eyes of the people. In the post-credit scene, we're told that Sam isn't very happy with them using the Avengers name, to the point where he even threatens taking legal action. We're also told that Bucky tried to talk to Sam about all this, but apparently that went poorly, and that begs the question. If Sam is getting pissed off at Bucky, someone who's been established as a pretty good friend of his, what kind of dynamic are these two groups going to have? I think the conflict between these two is bound to be really fun to watch, and I'm very interested to see where they take it. But arguably, the much bigger reveal in this movie is that the Fantastic Four are here. And let me tell you, when I saw that big, beautiful four, I got very excited. But you gotta wonder, why are they here? This version of the Fantastic Four has been confirmed to be from another dimension. So if they're here, my guess is their fight with that big old dude that has a bucket on his head didn't go so well. And maybe the post-credit scene for the Fantastic Four will take place after this scene, with them arriving on this Earth. If that's the case, that means Galactus is still out there and is still a big threat like he should be. But I guess we'll have to see what really happens this summer. Now, I know I've been glazing this movie to death, despite saying at the very beginning that people are overreacting. And admittedly, I don't have too many negatives to discuss, but the ones I do have I found to be big enough to lower the movie quite a few points for me. I already mentioned how this movie has a lot of characters, and I do stand by what I said. This movie does a really good job at juggling all these characters at once. But unfortunately, when you're fleshing out that many characters in a 2-hour movie, some are bound to take a dip in quality, in this case being Ghost and Sentry. I could include Taskmaster, but something obviously happened there. Her actress didn't even go to the premiere, so I won't be an asshole. But Ava specifically felt really weak in comparison to the rest of the cast, which made it feel like the only reason she was included in this movie was to show off her abilities. Which granted, they are pretty cool. I just wish she got the same treatment as everybody else, because even with the lack of depth in her character, I still think Ghost is a really interesting character, and I care a great deal for her. As for Sentry, almost everything was done very well. Hell, they improved him. I don't know much at all about Sentry. I've never actually read any of his books before, but from what I do know, in the comics, he was just a dude who happened to break into a high-security government lab that happened to have a clone of the super soldier serum just conveniently laying around. So I think I speak for everyone when I say that his character in this movie is a big improvement from that. My only complaint is that I felt like his turn was a little rushed. As soon as Valentina got her hands on him, like 15 minutes went by and all of a sudden he had a god complex, so I thought that could have been done a little better. But my biggest complaint about this movie by far is I didn't find a moment that hit me in the balls. Okay, I know that sounds really stupid, but let me finish. I really like to compare this movie to Guardians of the Galaxy 3 because I think they're very similar in a lot of ways. In Guardians 3, we get a bunch of flashbacks of Rocket's past in order to see why he is the way that he is. In these flashbacks, we're shown how the High Evolutionary murdered his friends right in front of him. The same friends his younger, hopeful self had promised to take to the new world. But rather than fulfilling this promise, he got them killed. Later on in the film, we see Rocket dying and heading towards the light where he gets to see his dead friends one more time. Rocket expresses to Lila how he completely blames himself for everything that happened to her and the others, and how all he wants to do is join them and look at the sky together. While all this is happening, Peter is desperately trying to save him, but he's too late. Rocket is already dead. We see him start walking to the other side where his friends are waiting for him, but Lila stops him. She tells him it's not his time and that he still has a purpose in this world. They share a quick embrace before he wakes up, surrounded by his family. Relieved, Peter and Groot hug him tightly, and they all hold each other in silence, just enjoying each other's company. These scenes were absolutely gut-wrenching, and I'm gonna be honest, I don't think Thunderbolts gets even remotely close to these highs. But I did think it got really damn close to a hit in the balls moment. Specifically, the scene between Yelena and Alexei. Seeing Yelena just pour her heart out to her dad got so close. It just needed to stick the landing, and I was ready to give this movie an 8.5 to 9 out of 10. But guys, I'm gonna be honest, the final act of this movie kinda lost me. As soon as Yelena stepped into the void, I knew exactly where we were going, and while it does stay true to the whole message Thunderbolts is trying to put across, I think they played it too safe. I didn't feel any emotional payoff, whereas, again, comparing this movie to Guardians 3, the final act of that movie has so much emotional payoff, with Rocket getting his get back and rescuing a group of baby raccoons, everything with Peter and Gamora, or the Guardians splitting up. I just really felt like Thunderbolts lacked something like that. I understand that I'm comparing this movie to one of the best in the MCU. But I mean, to be with the best, you gotta compete with the best, and I don't think this movie really gets close to a lot of top MCU projects. Now, don't get me wrong, I still think this film is great, and it's a huge step in the right direction. I just think if you're putting this movie in your top 4, you're a little crazy. I respect your opinion, but you're a little crazy. I don't think we can say we're back just yet, because if for whatever reason the Fantastic Four flops, I think we're cooked. But after everything this movie showed me, I am very optimistic for the future of the MCU. With all that being said, I am giving Thunderbolts a 7.5 out of 10. Really damn good movie, go watch it. Anyways, thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed, go check out some of my other videos. I think I got a few in there that are worth watching. Let me know your thoughts on Thunderbolts in the comments. Where would you place it in your MCU rankings? Anyways, thanks again, and I'll see you soon. Bye.